So, hello, fellow Earthlings. This is Earthlings 6455463728. And I think I'll give a piece on that whole idea of that intro thing. But anyway, for right now, I hate exercise, but I love the results. I 100% love the results. So, like I said, I'm Earthling yada yada yada. And one day I fell, and when I looked at my leg, I could see my bone underneath my skin. It wasn't sticking out or anything. I could just see it moving as I moved my foot. I could see was it my tibia or whatever? I'm not sure. But I could see my bone moving. Funny enough, it didn't really bleed so much, or maybe it didn't bleed at the time when I recall seeing what I saw. Anyway, I have a military background. I can treat water for a long time without drowning. I have been to a number of places that I thought I'd never get to, like Japan, Tokyo, Caracas, Venezuela, the Grand Canyon, the Louvre, the Leaning Tower of Pisa, stuff like that. I have a computer science degree and an MBA, and that's me for now. So I hate exercise, that thing that you do because you know it's good for you, and the thing that gets you all sweaty and stuff. The thing that you do where you're exercising and you're not realizing that you're exercising, that stuff is great. I love that stuff. That's fantastic. Like if I was playing soccer regularly, like if I had friends who played soccer regularly, that sounds fantastic. If I were playing tennis regularly, if I had a friend who I could play tennis with regularly, and I could figure out a way not to keep hitting the ball into the net all the time so that they would get upset and I would get upset and all that other stuff, that would also be great. But the thing that you do when you don't do those things that are fun with exercise hidden in the middle, those things like just running because you know it's good for you, I'm not too excited about that. I might be happy at the end of it. Hey, you ran a long distance. I used to have this thing called, my sister actually put it on my phone. It's called Map My Run. And as I would have talked about in another video, there was a park some distance from my house. And I started off with the idea that I just wanted to walk around this park. And that's the thing, you have to fool yourself. Honest to goodness, you have to fool yourself. Sometimes 100%, like I did, thinking I was just going to stick to walking around the park forever, never going to start running. Or you need to fool yourself knowing that you're fooling yourself and tell yourself that you're just going to do this thing for 10 seconds or a minute or whatever it is. Anyway, as it turned out, I went on vacation and I fell out of the habit of running around that particular park, and but I still want to look good. I still would like to catch a glimpse of myself in the mirror, or like when I accidentally turned on my camera to my phone, and I saw myself in the camera and be like, you have all of the bumps in all of the right places. Now that, those are the results that I like. Unfortunately, it is often very hard to get those specific results from the type of exercise that is actually, the fun that has exercise wrapped up in it. It's really hard to get desirable, specific results from just doing as much as you feel like it, because it's exciting or it's fun or whatever. Because I'll give you one example. It's not the best example. I remember that I used to do like about 5 pull-ups regularly. I don't know why I started. This was when I was like 12 or something. And I didn't do pull-ups and push-ups. I was just doing these pull-ups. Figured they were cool. And I thought, hey, you're kind of starting to look like your Popeye. Like one of these, my muscles, I can't remember which ones, whatever Popeye muscles, meaning I think it's my biceps. They were big, but the ones at the top of my shoulders, are those delts, they weren't as big because I was just doing the pull-ups. And like I said, it's not the perfect example. That was pure exercise as opposed to exercise wrapped up in fun. But I guess the same thing would happen with if you do an exercise that's wrapped up in fun, because what's going to happen is if you play tennis, for example, you're probably going to use one arm, and that arm is going to get huge and look really developed, and the other arm that you don't use is not going to look that good. So you're going to look a little bit lopsided. Of course, if you don't naturally do it, then you can use 2 arms to sort of even it out. But then, of course, you have to focus it. You're no longer just doing this thing because it's fun. You have to focus to make sure. And it might be the same thing with running. You might end up having really well-developed legs, and your upper body is just not there. Like I said, I like it when I accidentally see myself and I'm like, that's good. Random thought, I remember that there was some meme that I may have seen that basically went, I think somebody else posted it, when you skip leg day, which is this guy who is well developed on top, but his legs are like cartoon legs from, I don't know if you've ever seen Asterix and Obelix, but that's how they tend to draw the characters in Asterix and Obelix, which is very well developed upper body, but a poorly developed lower body. And another aside, actually 2 asides. The one aside is that even though it might look odd to see people with well-developed upper body and poorly developed lower body, at least in one study that I saw, that's not a problem for women. Apparently women just care about your upper body, so you don't really have to be too upset about your lower body. The next thing is, I can see why the guy, Joe Scott, I think, from Answers with Joe, why he has a tangent cam, because I guess I make a lot of tangents myself. But anyway, exercise. I hate it. And in as much as I hate it, but I love the results, what I do these days is I have decided that I am doing high intensity training, something. High intensity interval. It's HIITS. But anyway, the whole point of it is that it's a short workout, but it's supposed to basically do that thing in a short amount of time that keeps you healthy. At least I'm hoping, because they've done studies to come up with that conclusion, that if you train at a high intensity interval training, right, you will be able to have good cardiovascular health, and even without training for a long time. So, as I would have told my favorite subscriber, that's what I do. And I found that from the 4-hour work week with, can't remember that guy's name right now. But yeah, and I like the fact, whether it's, right now it's a a really horribly small amount of pull-ups, really horribly small amount of push-ups, but I can't do as many because I don't get very good sleep, and as a result of that, I don't recover very well. And as a result of that, when I also take into account the fact that I use my arms a lot to work with my uncle, to move him from one place to the next, to get him into bed, to get him out of bed, I already get a pretty good, decent workout. It's not like I'm sweating at the end of it, but it might be a question of stamina as opposed to the intensity of this thing. No, it can be intense. He weighs like, 120? And I have to pick him up probably once, twice, 3 times, 4 times a day sometimes. And that's not bad. It's good for my legs, it's good for my back, for my arms, whatever. But I can't do that in addition to regular push-ups, pull-ups, like a lot of them, because then I'm going to end up being consistently degrading, whether it's my tendons, really, that's what it amounts to. Like the tendons in my elbows, specifically my right elbow, it tends to flare up and get worse and worse if I decide that in addition to whatever work that I do with my uncle, I am going to do a large number of pull-ups or push-ups during the day, in addition to not being able to stay asleep for a good enough time to make sure that I'm fully recovered. So those are small, but between squats and what do they call this? I think they call it shadow boxing, but I don't actually do shadow boxing. I'm just trying to get in as many punches as I can within a 30-second period, like karate punches. And for my particular training, I don't, with the intervals, you're supposed to rest in between the intervals, and I don't. So I just go straight from one exercise to the next, and it's really about, hey, those muscles get a rest. If it's my arms, they're going to get a rest because I'm using my legs, and my legs are going to get a rest because I'm using my back. My back's going to get a rest because so that's how they get a rest. But my body is still working, hopefully, and I have to remind myself to make sure that my exercising is as intense as I can, and not kind of just phone it in at any time or allow my intensity to drop. I have to try and keep it up high. And yeah, it's going to be unpleasant. But at the end of the day, I know that I am doing good by my body, because one of the things that I want to have learned from people around me, or from my grandfather specifically, is that he would take walks every day. Every single day he would take, I think, a long walk, as a matter of fact. And of course, it's anecdotal evidence. He died when I was pretty young. And it's always a confusion in my head. This dude, he wasn't like jogging down the road, but he was out there every morning taking a walk. And he dies at a surprisingly young age. Not like, 40s or something, but still, for somebody who was out there exercising, he shouldn't have died at that time from a heart attack. And yes, it's just his one example. Who knows? He was not obese or overweight or anything like that. He was pretty thin, as far as my memory serves me, and as far as I can see from pictures. And it's, as somebody who kind of understands and grasps the risks that are associated with poor diet and poor body weight, and it's a conundrum. But the fact of the matter is, unfortunately, that's what your body actually needs is high intensity. Somewhere during your day, it's not sufficient just to get exercise. It has to be of a certain high intensity in order to avoid what happened to my grandfather. So that's part of the reason too why I'm doing it. Anyway, that's it for me. Like, subscribe, share, comment, dislike, or none of those above. And yeah, but please do it when in mind, like imagining that this were your piece and how you'd want people to have feedback to it. So have a good one. Peace.